Here.
Mr. Wiseman? Absent.
He's absent.
Ms. Forrest?
Here.
Ms. Dodd?
Here.
Ms. Cotter?
Here.
I'm here. Mr. Carlson?
Here.
President accounted for.
All right. Please rise if you can for the Pledge of Allegiance. To your left. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. I'm going to ask for a modification to the agenda under new business. I'll make it item E, which is the appointment of Miss Grisomkowski this evening. And let me explain just so the viewing public understands. Ms. Cotter ran for the special election seat. Since she was victorious in that run, she, because it's a special election, as soon as the Board of Canvassers certify this election, she takes over that position. She doesn't wait to the end of the calendar year. We expect the Board of Canvassers to certify sometime this week or possibly next week. Bottom line is it should be certified by the time our next school board meets on December 5th. What that does is that effectively pushes Ms. Cotter into Mrs. Grisomkowski's appointed position right now, and then leaves a vacancy on the board. With that vacancy on the board, we are going to appoint Ms. Grisomkowski to fill that vacancy for the balance of this calendar year. And then she will be sworn in along with the others in January in regards to the election results. So I hope that's clear to the listening public as well as to the board members, most importantly, because we'll be voting on this this evening to move forward with this. I prefer not to operate with just 6 board members for the balance of the school year. So, okay, with that friendly amendment, can I get a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. I do have board president comments this evening. So if you'll indulge me for a few minutes here to go through these comments. Let me first and foremost thank all of the voters of Huron Valley School District that exercised their constitutional right to vote this election cycle. Second, let me again thank all of the residents in Huron Valley that came forward as candidates and put their name on the ballot and provided choices to the Huron Valley voters. Third of all, let me congratulate Lindsay Cotter, our 12-year school board member who received 10,826 votes in our Huron Valley School District, the most votes cast for a school board member this election cycle, sending a loud statement that you don't need to be a parent to be on this board. You just need to demonstrate that you care about all the children of Huron Valley. Lindsay's 55% of the vote, and her matchup indicates how school district folks feel about Lindsay's style, approach, and the votes that she has made in the past, prior to the pandemic, during the pandemic, and after the pandemic. All of her decisions centered around what's best for, as she says, the kiddos. Let me also congratulate Amy Grisomkowski, who received 9,499 votes from the community. I've always said that I am not fond of appointing school board members because that is the right of our community. When we have a vacancy and we have to fill it until the next election cycle, we as a board try to make sure that we get that decision right. Well, on election night, the community confirmed our board decision that we made 10 months prior and voted Ms. Grisomkowski to a full 6-year term. I also want to welcome the 2 newcomers and their interest in serving and adding to the current school board parent perspective that is currently on the board. Michelle Ryan and Jacob Dimmick will be joining current board members Laura Dodd, Amy Grisomkowski, and Tom Weissman that are active parents and grandparents of students that currently attend Huron Valley. As a public servant serving the community, I have always appreciated the clarity and direction that elections can provide. If we take a moment to review the election results, it's important to understand the results so that as public elected officials, we can move forward with confidence in the results and our next steps. So what did the 2022 election tell us about the voters in the Huron Valley school community in comparison to the last gubernatorial race school board election? Here are some data observations. More voters in Huron Valley schools cast votes for the governor in 2022 versus 2018. 700 more voters voted in our school district. 2018 was considered a banner election year for voting in the gubernatorial years, yet 2022 was 1.8% more. That's great news that more voters are getting involved. In the 2022 Huron Valley School Board election, in which voters had three options, there were approximately 19,799 votes. This assumes everyone voted for three candidates. Now, we all know that that's not true. Sometimes people go in and just plunk for one candidate or plunk for two. But if we conservatively take and divide that number by three, that registers as 19,799 votes. In 2018, there were 15,249 voters that cast a ballot in school board election. This was 4,550 more votes than 4 years ago. In the Huron Valley School special election to fill the remaining vacancy of Mr. Jeff Long's seat, there were 19,662 votes cast, a slight drop off from the election for the 6-year terms. Drop off from the gubernatorial race to the school board races was significantly down. Now, drop off is when the number of voters who vote on the top of the ticket and then they do not vote down the ballot. And there's a natural tendency to just vote on the higher seats and then bag the rest of the ballot. In 2018, the drop off from voting in the governor's race to voting in the local school board election was 59.4%. Almost 60% of the folks dropped off, which means that only about 40% of the voters stayed from the governor all the way through the school board races in 2018. In 2022, the gap closed by approximately 12%. The drop off from the gubernatorial race to the school board was 48.26%, which means almost 52% of the voters that cast a vote in the gubernatorial race also cast a vote in the school board election, a 12% increase. So why the difference? What's the explanation for the drop-off closing the gap by more than 12%? Did the number of Huron Valley voters increase? The Huron Valley School District did see a 1.8% increase, but this is not enough to count for closing the gap by more than 12%. A quick hypothesis might suggest that the number of candidates that ran for the Board of Education full 6-year term positions, office positions, which was 10 candidates, brought more attention to these full terms than the 4 candidates for the 3 board seats in 2018. That seems like a logical explanation. It's a good theory until you review the 2016 election cycle, where there were 9 candidates running for 4 open seats in Huron Valley School Board. In that Board of Education election cycle, we saw 15,656 votes cast in the school board election. This election cycle had a greater overall voter turnout than 2018 and 2022, yet still hovered around the 15,500 mark. Presidential elections always garner more votes than the gubernatorial. This also created a bigger drop-off in the presidential year as well. So it's clear that the evidence and explanation for the higher voter turnout is due in large part to a number of coordinated campaign brochures and flyers that were mailed in this election cycle. By my count, there were 7 to 9 flyers that went out across the district identifying candidates to support or remind voters about the election, and to not forget the school board race on the other side of the ballot. Although this helped to get more voters engaged in the school board election, which is great, it's also, I'm afraid, pierced the nonpartisan tradition that this school district has been able to honor in this school district. The investment in this nonpartisan school board race is estimated to be around $100,000. When I review candidate filings, I clearly can see that combined candidate filings do not come anywhere close to that amount, which means that outside partisan groups spent over $100,000 on nonpartisan races. Huron Valley was not alone. There was a concerted and coordinated effort to target 21 other school districts across Michigan. We know that 7 of the flyers were sent and mailed by the Oakland County OCRP, which specifically promoted 4 candidates. 2 flyers came out from progressive groups supporting 6 other candidates. Please understand, my concern is not with the candidates that were elected. My concern is, what does this mean for Huron Valley going forward? What road have we gone down? What does this mean for future elections? Does this mean partisan parties, Democrats and Republicans, will now be supporting nonpartisan positions? More importantly, what does this do to public education? Are the interests of our children now secondary to the motivations and interests of partisan parties? What have we started? Does that now mean a return volley from the Democratic Party? Will there be a sense of obligation that is owed by candidates that receive the benefit of $100,000 worth of campaigning advertisement and goodwill? I know I have received phone calls and emails from parents and voters in the district concerned about the partisan involvement in Huron Valley School Board elections and how the election results may be interpreted. Let me say there's a lot to understand about this election and a lot to be grateful about this election. Lindsay Cotter and Amy Grisomkowski are returning to the school board to join Tom Weissman, Laura Dodd, and Denise Pisana. These 5 collectively know how to balance budgets, work with one of the state of Michigan's best superintendents in Dr. Salah and his team. These 5 collectively know that Huron Valley has to retain great teachers and attract new teachers with higher pay and more support. They need to be competitive with wages and benefits regarding their supportive staff to continue to make this a great district to raise a family and educate your children. They know what we need to stay the course and implement the new strategic plan that is being developed. They know that diversity, equity, and inclusion needs to be continued to be embraced. They know that social emotional learning is not a derivative of CRT, but an important technique in our learning environments to support students in our buildings. Michelle Ryan and Jacob Dimmick will have a lot of catching up to do, but if they put in the time and hard work required to do this job well, they will be fine. Getting caught up and doing your homework so that you are up to snuff on the topics is what I had to do as a new board member, everyone before me and everyone since I've been elected after me. What I've understood most importantly coming onto the board and when I joined the Board of Education, which is that it takes 4 votes to move any action. 3, it's also important to not overinterpret the results of the election. Some have suggested that this was a referendum on the votes that this board has taken in the past related to the pandemic. To those folks, I would say that is incorrect. If it was a referendum on the difficult decisions made during the pandemic, then the referendum failed, and not just barely. A review of one of the slate candidates one-on-one shows Ms. Cotter winning her race 55 to 45%. Some folks have asked, what about diversity, equity, and inclusion and social emotional learning? And does this election and the results indicate a retreat from those principles and teachings? Absolutely not. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, when you compare the collective vote totals of the candidates and their positions on these topics in the community, overwhelmingly voted for social emotional learning and diversity, equity, and inclusion. Over 75% of the community votes went to candidates that embrace these concepts and principles in their questionnaire responses and candidate forum interviews. So what do the election results of this election say to us in Huron Valley and to this 2023 Board of Education? The message is obviously in the hands of the receiver, But to me, it says the voters want to continue to move forward. Be emboldened by the results of this election and the elections in the past that had created the membership that exists on this board. Also, this board should know that you have a pro-education state capitol, governor and state legislator that have indicated public education will be a priority. The opportunity to reduce foundation allowance differentials between school districts to ensure all students receive the same amount of dollars regardless of where they attend school. It also means that there is a greater opportunity to advance public education initiatives that have not been successful in doing and under our local state elected officials. I have shared with many that outside my disappointment in partisan politics getting involved, my biggest disappointment is that Ms. Forrest's expertise and leadership will not be able to be leveraged with the next board. Ms. Forrest was the highest absentee ballot vote getter in the race, but came up short on election day by 59 votes. That certainly disappoints me, but I am very grateful for the 4 years of her service and that Ms. Forrest was always thinking and voting what was best for students and staff. She served in one of the most tumultuous times in our school district history, and she has served with distinction and merit that has brought credit upon herself and this school district. This board has a lot going for them. Mr. Wiseman, in accordance with our policy, will be the new school board president in January. Ms. Pastana will continue to be the secretary. Mr. Wiseman will appoint Laura Dada as the vice president and Lindsay Cotter to the new treasurer position. Under this new executive leadership and trustee Grisomkowski's experience, I believe this board has a unique opportunity to work with Dr. Salah and bring this district closer and ensure that we remain a strong community by delivering a strong and united school district. God bless this country, state, and school district. Thank you. All right. We will now move to item B, recognitions.
Good evening. Tonight, we would like to take a moment to highlight an event that took place early November. The HVS Family Resource Night was a huge success, and those at the heart of it were HVS social workers. They work tirelessly to get our community easy access to the resources that they need. And while our social workers make their way up here to tell us more about the Family Resource Night, we want to say thank you, not only for organizing this important event, but for what you do in our schools and with our students each and every day.
Thank you. As you may imagine, this is not all of us, but these are some of us who are able to make it here tonight. I'm Ana Moreno. I'm the social worker this year. I'm at Johnson. I've been here for decades in Huron Valley, and I'll let everybody introduce themselves.
My name is Kim Soleil. I hired decades ago with Anna, and I am at Heritage and at the ATP over at Milford High School.
I am Lauren Scanlon. I am the Title I school social worker at Oxbow Elementary. I'm also currently helping out at Johnson Elementary. And I've been here, I think this is my 5th year, something like that. Hi, I'm Leah Smith, social worker at Kurtz Elementary, and I believe it's my 4th or 5th year too. Don't even know.
Hi, I'm Nikki Grabo, school social worker here at Lakeland, and I've been here for about 12 years. So just real quick, we wanted to say, doing resource night, there were years ago, if you see my shirt, this was from years and decades ago. I think we were trying to figure out, we used to do this every year for quite a few years because we saw that need and we put that on. And then, community needs changed and that didn't happen, but then we brought it back this year and we thank you for coming. We know that you were there. And obviously it couldn't have happened without the incredible partnerships we have with community sharing, with churches, with Oakland County Health agencies, with different parents coming forward. And that's, not only for Resource Night, but throughout the year. We are so grateful to all the community supports that we have to be able to do what we do to support families and students in so many ways. And one of the things that we see even before the pandemic started is that the anxiety, the mental health needs of students and parents and staff have been rising and rising. And so being able to help in so many different ways with all of those needs. And then the hard thing was then since the pandemic is we've seen greater needs, but at the same time where resources out there are dwindling. They're just not there for lots of different reasons. And so being able to basically work our butts off, right? To be able to do what we can to help continue to support and advocate for our children, because we know if their needs are being met, whether it's basic needs or mental health needs, then we know that they will be able to learn better, right? And be a sense of that community and carry forth to be successful, happy people, right? And one of the things I just heard, I didn't get confirmation, but there was a contract that was just signed with Easter Seals, that partnership. Yes, I know that was in the works for a while, which is wonderful to bring in that into the schools, along with CNS for our secondary folks, but to be able to help make it more accessible to families is huge. So I just want to thank all of you, and for what you do to help us do what we do. But the other thing I would say is if you know any social workers who are interested, we have 4 open positions, but also bringing in educators and social workers into the profession. So if you know anybody who's interested in going into the profession, I would be happy to speak with them and share more about the joys, but also the difficulties. It's not for anybody. And I'm sure you all would be too. So is there anything else you want to add?
I just want to say, and what Mrs. Moreno said, bringing community resources doesn't just help us and our families, it actually helps them as well, because then they also get to see the need that we have within our buildings. And I'm sure everybody has heard the saying, it takes a village to raise a child. Well, it actually takes a village to raise a village. We're not just an individual entity, we are now all partners. And the more that we continue to build that relationship with our outside agencies, the more that it'll actually benefit the students, the families, and ourselves here at our schools as well. So, thank you.
Just get a quick picture of you guys here and any board members. Thank you very much. Yes, thank you. Thank you very much.
Lindsay Cotter, I recognize you for a comment.
Ladies, or before you make your exit, I just want to make a and thank Anna for her opening comments. You were thanking us and thanking the board and our administration for your support. On the contrary, we need to be thanking you. You are the ones that are there on the line. And I can tell you, as a teacher, you were an asset to my classroom. As an administrator, my social worker turned out to kind of be my right hand. And as a board member, I now entrust everything that you do with our kids in every building. It was a godsend to us that we were able to have a social worker assigned to each elementary building in recent years. So please don't thank us. We thank you for everything you do every day. Good job on that resource night. I know it was an exceptional evening. Again, thank you.
All right. School presentations.
We do not have any school presentation this evening.
All right. We do have under superintendent communication, the audit presentation.
I have a couple of other items as well.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Before we get to the, if there's no objection by the board, I'd like to have student leadership go prior to superintendent communication.
Sure.
Are you okay
Yep,
with that?
absolutely.
So
So we have Everett here this evening. Everett
I-
Ross from Lakeland.
I know that he's very interested in audit presentations, but I just, Jeff, if anybody can make it interesting, it's Jeffrey, but it's just not fair.
You are correct. I just love presentations. So speaking of which, I'm just going to present on some things here at Lakeland that have been going on this past month and happening in the next month. I'm Everett Ross. I'm the senior class president here at Lakeland High School. And first of all, I'd like to talk about the Bowl-a-thon, which just happened this past week, November 12th. It's a fundraiser for the annual Holiday Hope for Kids, which is it's like a holiday party for special needs kids across Oakland County. It's one of Lakeland's longest traditions. I believe we've been doing it here since Lakeland was first founded. So that's on December 8th from 9:30 to 1 p.m. So I invite all the board members, if you guys are available on December 8th from 9:30 to 1 p.m., please come out. It's a really heartwarming event. Super cool to see. We haven't had it since 2019, which is my freshman year. So I haven't been able to go to this event since my freshman year. So I'm really looking forward to that this year. And like I said, it's just a really special event that Lakeland's been doing for the past, for as long as Lakeland's been around. Just today, Lakeland's leadership class actually went to Meyer to buy the gifts for the special needs students, which was a really cool thing to do. It was a nice way to get out of class and just help out some people. So I'm going to be honest. It was very cool. The Holiday Hope for Kids Bowl-a-thon fundraiser raised over $2,000, and every single bit of that went towards gifts for these students. So that's really something special. Another event we just had in this past week was the Veterans Day ceremony put on by Mr. Howe's AP government class. We had a big turnout, I'd say. It was really successful. I think we had like 20 plus veterans here, and it's just a really cool opportunity for students and teachers just to show their appreciation for veterans and active duty service members as well. So just another thing going on here at Lakeland. Winter sports are in full effect and swinging. You know, I'm a wrestling captain, so I couldn't be more happy that winter sports are happening right now. And, you know, I'm just really looking forward to this Thanksgiving break. So that's all I got here from Lakeland. Thank you guys for this opportunity. I hope you all have a good Thanksgiving.
All right. Thank you. Nice job. All right. So now, Superintendent Salah.
Thank you, President
And I know
Carlson.
I alleviated a huge pressure off
Mr.
of Mrs.
Carlson.
Hollander, who always has to go after those students. So now she's going after the audit, so she'll be.
He did you a
she'll be
solid,
awesome.
Everett. Trust me. Have a good evening. Thank you. I too, I wanted to echo Ms. Cotter's sentiments regarding our social workers. They truly are the best. I mean, best in class. We're fortunate as a school district to have the social workers we do have. And I will say for our listening audience, if you are interested in school social work, we do have some vacancies. And there's a lot of reward in this work. And I think that you would be surrounded with one of the best teams that's out there. Couple folks and I, actually Ms. Hollander, myself, and Ms. Thompson had an opportunity to attend an event today at Oakland Schools. There had to have been, my goodness, close to 500 or more people there, really just talking about some of the challenges that exist in terms of supporting students with mental health challenges that started prior to the pandemic and have certainly continued to rise in terms of the needs related to our students. And social work shortages appear to be a challenge across at least Oakland, Macomb, Wayne, Genesee, and I think St. Clair was there as well, experiencing the same sorts of challenges across the state. So thank you for putting on that resource night. We appreciate your service and to the Huron Valley schools. I also wanted to just take a moment. I know we'll have some time over the next month to thank Mr. Carlson and Ms. Forrest for their service, selfless service to the school board for many, many years. But I just wanted to take a moment publicly to thank you for everything you've done for the school board. You two truly have been outstanding school board members to work with, and I am going to miss both of you very, very much. Lindsay and Amy, look forward to continue to work with you. I know that I've gotten to know both of you over the years, and Amy, you a little more recently, but I appreciate the thoughtfulness and always doing your best thinking and asking the right questions to help us move forward as a school district. And to Mr. Dimick and Ms. Ryan, I look forward to getting to know you and supporting you as board members so that we can do what's right and best for our students and our staff. This weekend, I had an opportunity to attend a production called White Christmas at Milford High School. I just am always enamored by the quality of the productions that our schools put on. This one did not disappoint. The students they're magnificent. Their ability to act and sing, it's like you would think they're professionals. Truly, I don't know how they do it. I really do not know how. They don't go to school all day, take advanced courses, participate in outside school activities, and memorize all of those lines. I don't think I could do it. So outstanding performance, and really proud of the kids. Also wanted to share, one thing I'm just really proud of in Huron Valley is, our buildings go above and beyond to recognize our veterans. And I don't know that everybody really fully grasps the number of ceremonies that take place across the school district, but there is a true, real value for our veterans and the sacrifices that they have made and continue to make for our country. And you just don't see that in every community across the state. Frankly, I've worked in a lot of different places across multiple counties, and I haven't seen the level of support and the number of ceremonies that we put on here in the Huron Valley schools. So I just want to give a kudos to our staff for being thoughtful and really doing the right thing to recognize our veterans. So last, before I turn it over on the audit, just a quick strategic planning update. As the board knows, and I've continued to report out at a number of board meetings, we are moving along nicely as it relates to our strategic plan. Our 5 committees had what we believe was their last working meeting on November 16th. They put together their final thoughts. I've reviewed all of that thinking and done some minor editing to put the various groups into a common language. We're reviewing it tomorrow in cabinet. It will then be shared back with the entire strategic planning committee, made up of just over 70 people, to review what we believe will be the final edits before the Board of Education will be presented with the first draft of the strategic plan. On December 5th, after the board has an opportunity to hear that thinking and those thoughts, we will ask that if you have any questions between the 5th and the 19th, to share those questions with me. And then we will present you with a final version for action on December 19th. So that's where we're at in terms of our strategic planning. And so with that, my formal item on the agenda this evening is the audit presentation. I am going to invite Mark from Hungerford Nichols up to the podium, but before he starts, I just want to say a special thank you to Jeffrey Van Gotham, Heather, and Nanette for your outstanding work and dedication. Those of you who are unfamiliar in our listening audience, public school districts are required by law to have a third-party entity that has nothing to do with the operations of the school district to come in and do an external audit of all of the majority of our operations. And Mark will go into more detail regarding exactly what that looks like and how programs are selected. So just want to thank our business and operations department, and I would turn it over to you, Mr. Van Gotham, for any comments as you invite Mark to the podium.
Thank you, Dr. Salah. Yeah, echo the sentiments. Obviously, we have a very strong leadership team in business and operations. Heather and Annette are a very strong leadership team. It makes our job a lot easier when we have really good people on. As well as my assistant who's here tonight, Gina Moruskin. She's a big part of our team as well. She's actually subbing for Lori Hill, who is hopefully enjoying herself somewhere not in Huron Valley right now. But with that being said, we have Mark Sawyers here. He is a CPA. He is a senior manager with Hungerford Nichols, and they were selected by the Board of Education about a year ago to start doing our annual audits. And so This is their first year here working with us on our audit, and we're really happy to have them. And so I'm going to pass the mic over to Mark so he can lead us in a presentation here. Thank you, Mark.
How's everybody doing tonight? So, Mr. Carlson, I had an hour-long presentation, cover to cover planned here, but I think I'll scale it back tonight.
I have to gavel you down.
Okay, it's worth mentioning.
I only have 2 more meetings left. So.
Okay. So, I was out here last week, so it's worth mentioning. I met with your finance committee, had a really good discussion where I went through this same presentation, had a lot of good conversation, hit on some of the high notes of that, and had a really dove into some of the details of it during that meeting. Today, for sake of time, I'll breeze through it a little faster, but definitely feel free to stop me if you have any questions as I go along, and I can take questions at the end as well. To echo the sentiment about the business office team, luckily I had the pleasure of working with Heather while she was at Clarkston before she came here, so I was familiar with her. Always great when you have that familiarity between the client, the school district, and the CPA firm. I think it's challenging taking on a new auditor, both ways. I think it's a lot of work. Added to that, you had a pandemic in recent years, you have additional funding, you have construction at the district. It's really a lot going on here, and that all runs through the business office. So really been a burden on them the last couple of years, and they're fantastic to work with. As we knew what we were getting when we signed on here with the district due to that past working with Heather. So it's lived up to that, and we had a really smooth transition in year 1, I think. With that, I'm just going to kind of jump in. I just mentioned the first bullet there, really smooth transition this year. So we hit the ground running, and I think I said during our meeting last week, usually by year 2 or 3, maybe we're at that point, but I really feel that that familiarity helped get to that point in year 1. I mentioned the additional funding, the Education Stabilization Fund. This is your ESSER 1, 2, 3. There's 23 subcomponents of that fund. At a federal level, not all of those applicable to school districts, but many of them are. And you've probably had lots of conversations about how you're going to spend those grants the last couple of years. Again, large burden on you as a district, board included, I'm sure. GASB 87, that's an auditing pronouncement, a governmental auditing pronouncement that went into effect this year related to leases. So we also had to deal with that. You have a copier lease that was added this year, just worth mentioning, but not a whole lot other than that on the lease front. I mentioned the ongoing construction. So you can see there, $22.7 million in construction in progress at year end, $31.7 million added in new assets this year. So a lot going on. I think any district, any given year, you have a busy business office, but this year, with that amount of work on the capital project side of things, just adds to the work that they do here in the business office. So if you have the report in front of you, the very first page is our independent auditors report. We are independent of the district, so we come in and we perform not only one audit of your finance and prepare these financial statements, but we also perform a second compliance audit that's related to your federal grant funding. So anytime you spend $750,000 or more in federal grants, you're required to have what's called a single audit. So you get 2 for 1 here. You get 2 audits each year. So we come out and usually prior to year end to try to start on that compliance audit. We wrap up in the summer when we're out working on the financial audit. So the unmodified opinion, that is the highest level of assurance we can provide, and the state would not accept an audit submission at any other level. So always great that you're getting to that level without any additional interventions, which we do not need to have. So your financial statements from our perspective are free of material misstatements and in accordance with accounting principles. So when I mentioned breezing through a little bit, we have a handful of slides here with some high-level statistical type information. These are the slides that we really went into detail on during the meeting with the finance committee last week. I'll point out a couple of things from these slides, but before I go into that, I just want to point out also, governmental financials are unique in that you have really 2 sets of financial statements. What you see here are the governmental funds. Those, in contrast to the district-wide financials, which include really a long-term focus, if you will. So things like your net pension liability, your net OPEB liability for your employees, capital assets, and other long-term debt of the district. those are presented in what we call the district-wide financials. Those are not included in this slide, in these slides, really just because the clarity of looking at governmental funds, I think, provides more information on a year-to-year basis for you to see how individual funds at the district are functioning and the changes year over year. So that's what you see here. Your combined general fund, that is the main operating fund of the district, your largest fund. You can see some of the changes or the balance sheet side of things, the assets and liabilities related to that. You have special revenue funds. There's some asterisks underneath there, pointing out what exactly is included with those. Your debt service funds, those are your principal and interest payments on debt are made out of those. And the capital projects I already mentioned are accounted for separately in their own funds. Statement of revenues, expenditures, changes in fund balance. This is essentially your income statement. And this is where I mentioned the clarity that you get when looking at the fund financials, really present in the net change in fund balance. So you can see the last 3 years really coincides in some ways with the pandemic, additional funding during those times, but also additional expenditures. A lot of that one-time funding, one-time expenditures. So it can be misleading to some degree, those spikes that you'll see in a few of these different slides. So I do want to point that out. And the grants, which I'll get to when I get to the single audit report, are up rather substantially, like many districts across the state. It's a little difficult to see here, but your general fund budget to actual statement. This is, to me, one of the more important pages of the report. A lot of work from all of you goes into this and budgeting. And this is presented for the general fund, the main operating fund, but you're also required to prepare these for your special revenue funds. Those are included in the back of the report, which will be available publicly to those watching. And you can look at all the different funds of the district, including special revenue funds and the budget to actual reports there. Worth pointing out on this slide, more than anything, is in blue there. The fund balance at year end, I believe I'm having trouble seeing it from here, but I think it's 17 million or so. That represents 16.5% of unrestricted revenue from the year and 13% of budgeted expenditures for the next year. Those are two metrics that the state looks at in evaluating the health of a fund balance. And they usually recommend to be between 10 and 20%. So you're really sitting in a sweet spot there of not too high, not too low, and really healthy fund balances. All right, the next few slides, we have some pie charts, and graphs related here to general fund revenue. So this is showing the breakdown of state sources, local sources, federal. Obviously, state sources make up the vast majority. So your state aid funding, restricted grants, and federal grants, I mentioned already, increasing, represent 12%. We have some trend data here related to the changes that I've already mentioned. Again, increase in state aid funding, also grants, really responsible for those spikes. And expenditures here. So we've included some information on what's included in supporting services there at the bottom. Also that the general fund budget to actual can show you different components of that supporting services. But as you can see, instruction, supporting services make up the vast majority of your expenditures. Already mentioned the increase in revenues and expenditures, really evident in this slide. The cost of everything really in the country is up, and you're a victim of that, just like really any governmental entity or in the public sector as well. So that's really a good graph showing the changes the last couple of years with increases in expenditures. Fund balances. You can see net increase in many cases there. And I learned in our finance committee meeting that the community services fund historically had a large deficit. As you can see, you're in the positive there in the bottom in all of these funds. So you want a positive fund balance. You have it. You're going in the right direction with net increases. And I mentioned before, you're in a sweet spot with it's 12, not 17, 12.6 million fund balance in your general fund. I have a final slide here with some trend data. This shows the breakdown of that fund balance as it relates to assigned, committed, and restricted components of that. And as you can see, the last couple of years with the increase, the effect it's had on your unassigned. So typically we would see with the districts that we work with, something more close to those last 2 years, where you have a large portion of unassigned with a remaining amount restricted and assigned or committed, depending on board decisions as it relates to those. Moving on now to the compliance audit. So not a lot included in these slides, but this is really a recap. Again, we have an unmodified opinion. I think I mentioned last week, anytime we are taking and copying and pasting those letters, their template language, that's what you want. That means we have no issues to report. We have no deficiencies and controls identified. It's a control-based audit. So, one unique piece of this audit compared to your financial audit is that we're required to test those controls. It's kind of a higher level of assurance as it relates to internal controls over compliance. And we also consider internal controls over financial reporting as it relates to this audit. And that's really because it's a risk-based audit. We do not look at every single program that you administer. We go through a process of selection each year, depending on risks, depending on federal requirements that we have to meet in picking those programs. So this year, and really for the foreseeable future, we're looking at the Education Stabilization Fund, and that is just related to the massive amount of funding that is flowing through that at a federal level to all of our school districts in the state. So you can plan on us continuing to look at that. I believe we also looked at the Special Education Fund this year. We're required to look at really any of your large funds or large grants, every third year. So we'll continue to do that and go through about that process over the next couple of years. And, the child nutrition cluster being another one of your large ones that we'll have to look at as well. The other piece, I think important to point out, you're a low-risk auditee. That's also where you want to be as a district. To be a high-risk auditee, that means you have audit findings, or you historically have not had the audit at all. So obviously, you'd like to be in the low-risk category, and you are as a district, which is fantastic. A little more summary here. This is showing you the changes in federal expenditures. I mentioned a pretty large spike. You went from about 12.3 million to 16.4 million in expenditures this year. A lot of that related to the Education Stabilization Fund, ESSER 2, ESSER 3, some of the other components of that Education Stabilization Fund. The major programs audited in the middle there, those are the programs that we look at. So when I said we do not audit every single program, we audit just those major programs. So you can see what we've looked at the last couple of years. And below that, you can see the percentage of your total expenditures that those two programs make up. So fairly large, significant amount of your total expenditures are looked at in the audit. We had no findings to report, which is always where you want to be as well. And like I said before, you're a low-risk auditee. Threw this slide in just to give you kind of a high-level view of where you stand with this funding, with the ESSER funding. As you can see in here, a lot of it has been spent to date. So some remaining with your 11T equalization funding. We'll likely be looking at a lot of that and the remaining ESSER 3 funding during your fiscal year 23 audit. Moving on just to the final document that we prepared. This is a letter to you, the board. We call it the SAS 114 letter. And really it's our chance to communicate any issues that we had in the audit. So I think you probably already grasped the theme of this, that we didn't have any issues. We had no findings. We think management is great to work with. So again, a cookie cutter type of letter here that you received at the district. Large adjusting journal entries will also be included in there. Historically, we've had very few entries to make working with Heather. She takes that, and I should say Heather and her team, they take that side of things very serious. Like any good accountant, they don't want us to come in and have to correct their books. So that's always really nice for us as auditors to have someone on the other end that takes their job serious in that way. And really nothing else to say on that. I guess it's just great to work with. Other matters, excess fund balance and food service. You're one of the vast majority of districts in the state that have an excess fund balance as measured by the state of Michigan. So easiest way to equate that to what caused it is the increase in reimbursement rates during the pandemic for the meals being served. And this is something that the state has requested that we include in the letter. They monitor excess fund balance. They work with you on a spend down plan to make sure that fund balance is reduced to a level that they feel is more appropriate. So that is included in the letter and also being worked on actively by the district, getting that fund balance down.
A question on the food service reimbursement. It's my understanding that some of those fund balances can be used for the purposes of operations as well. New ovens, new equipment, trucks for delivering. Is that true?
Yeah, so you can use it for not only the operational piece, Sean, but also what you're talking to capital expenditures.
Yes.
Which could be additional upgrades to any type of things that we use to bake or, heat some of the food. So we're taking, our food service team, Sarah Simmerman, is working on, she already has a draft of the spend down plan. And so that's something that I'll bring to finance and operations and share with the rest of the board. We're just working on, what makes the most sense given that there's a dollar amount that we try to hit, coupled with the fact that we have purchases that we still haven't made from our bond program that could possibly be done through the spend down plan.
Okay, thank you.
So a final slide here. So things to think about on the horizon. I mentioned GASB 87. Well, GASB 96 goes into effect this year, very similar to the lease pronouncement, but it relates to subscription-based IT arrangements. So I think we've recommended to our districts to start working with your IT team, figuring out what's out there if you have those sorts of agreements and gathering them. And obviously we can be a resource to you in assisting to ensure smooth implementation of that pronouncement. You'll continue to spend down the ESSER funding. You've already spent a good amount of ESSER 3. There's some additional requirements associated with that funding, maintenance of effort and earmarking. Again, if you have questions, feel free to reach out to us. And monitoring that spend down plan. And then finally, the construction fund audits that will be required at the close when you reach substantial completion of those different bonds. So that is something that we will also perform. We prepare a report under separate cover for that, but we are actually testing during your annual audit. We're looking really extensively at those funds where you're accounting for construction at the district. Treasury Bulletin 7 for anyone out there that wants to know more about that requirement is a helpful resource that the state has put out that describes the requirement and some of the things that go into it. A lot of a focus on competitive bidding and ensuring that's happening at the district, and also that the expenditures are consistent with the stated purpose of the bonds. That is all I have for you. If there's any questions, happy to take them.
I'll open it up for any questions. I know Mr. Weissman's not here, so somebody's going to have to play their best Mr. Weissman. And I would suggest that would be a finance and operations person. Ms. Dodd.
I'm not a
Go ahead.
finance and operations person. I'm on the communications committee, so I don't know if that's helpful at all. But I'm interested to just point out one of the things I was really happy to see as compared to years in the past is there were no negative balances in our special revenue funds. So this board and Shannon Lasso and Community Rec and Ed have made some really hard decisions over these past few years, and have had to change some offerings and really figure out how to be scrappy with stuff. So the fact that this is there and that we're now not taking general fund money to pay for some of these other things is really I'm very happy to see that. And of course, if we have food money, I'm glad that there's a plan for how we're going to spend that, because obviously that's important. So those are the two things that I noted. And I think the money that came for pandemic recovery is a challenge, but I wouldn't necessarily call it a burden. So it certainly has been a challenge, but one that was needed and certainly appreciated by the district. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Good. Thank you, Ms. Dodd. Any other questions, comments? Ms. Grzymkowski.
I would just say that we had the opportunity to meet this past week?
Yeah,
No,
just
I
this
don't know.
past week.
It's all running together now. And it was very exciting to see a clean audit like this. So kudos to the team. It is really remarkable what they were able to do. We had some very good conversations about what does the budget look like when we don't have one-time grant funding. We had some very good conversations around the fact that our state funding has increased so dramatically. Those are great things because they will continue on. They are not one-timers. We do have some categoricals safety and security, special ed. We are hopeful that those will continue to be something that the state makes available to school districts. I know Dr. Slaw has been working on a transportation categorical, which I am very excited about. But these are good conversations that we had in finance and operations. And again, kudos to our finance team, our business office. Well done. This is a challenge, and you guys made it look easy, and I know it's not. So well done.
Thank you, Ms. Grzymkowski. Any other comments? What I'd like to share is I believe this is your first time in front of the school board.
It is.
That's right. So thank you. Excellent job. The other thing I just want to say, as I'm feeling a bit nostalgic here, is this is an example of being persistent as a school board member. And I say that, and Jeffrey knows exactly what I'm talking about. As a school board member, I brought this up in 2011-12, and I started talking about Plant Moran. They do an excellent job. They're excellent financial auditors, but at some point in time, it's a best practice to get new auditors in there and take a look. Was consistent with that. And as you can see, it's 2022. It's almost a decade later. So change doesn't always happen fast. But as a board member, you need to be persistent and you need to keep pushing for best practices to happen. So uniquely, this audit presentation was very heartwarming to me to see it up here this evening. So I appreciate that. So thank you. Nice job.
Yeah, thank you. We appreciate the opportunity and look forward to hopefully many years in the future working with you.
Thanks. All right, association comment. See Ms. Hollander making her way.
I love the change of the agenda. Thank you so much. Always happy to go after the audit and not the student leadership. Good evening. Over the past 2 years, I've talked a lot about our educators and their roles in the district. It's always important to me that my association comments can help the Board of Education and our community learn more about the unique roles of our specific educator cohorts and the outstanding programs that we have in Huron Valley. Tonight, I am here to talk about our teacher leaders. We have 9 teacher leaders, including myself, in the district. Our roles vary across the district, and it's going to take me 2 nights of association comments to share with you how they use their knowledge, experience, and leadership to support our administrators, educators, and students. Tonight, I'm excited to talk about Connie Gilbert, Kristen Chastain, Kathleen Miska, and Derek Bod. Each of these teacher leaders, they work out of a central office and are connected to our teaching, learning, and technology department. All of them have been Huron Valley teachers for many years, and Kathleen continues to teach 2 hours every day at Lakeland High School each morning. I'll start with Derek. Derek is our technology teacher leader. He works side by side our district technology team at central office. Derek spends his days supporting our teachers with their technology concerns. He is always available to answer specific questions, and he regularly leads professional learning in our new technology. He is tasked with helping to design and implement the district's instructional technology vision, and then assist with training teachers and supporting that vision as it plays out. With the increase of technology over the past 3 years, Derek's role is busier than ever. Derek reflects that technology brings challenges and changes every day, and a vital part of his job is to stay ahead of those changes to support our staff so they can function as efficiently and effectively while using this new technology. As we've moved through the pandemic and began using technology on a regular daily basis, getting to know our Huron Valley staff and being able to support and collaborate with them has been really rewarding for him. Teachers have shared with me that Derek has excellent communication skills and provides useful, solid feedback. Jessica Stewart, our Kurtz technology teacher, She states that Derek is an amazing leader for our technology teachers. He is knowledgeable, professional, and goes above and beyond for his team. He is incredibly supportive, patient, and makes learning accessible to everyone. Shifting to the teaching and learning side of TLT, Connie, Kristen, and Kathleen play a key role in our curriculum and district initiatives. Over the past few years, as our district has moved into our best practices for meeting in professional learning communities and rolling out collaborative inquiry groups, these three teacher leaders have worked alongside our TLT directors to introduce these important initiatives. I've had the privilege of collaborating with Connie, Kristen, and Kathleen on these two district initiatives and can personally say that they have an incredible deep level of knowledge and understanding for the benefits of PLC and collaborative inquiry. Rolling out these practices takes a thoughtful and caring plan in order to ensure that our educators across all of our buildings receive the same information and knowledge. Connie, Christine, and Kathleen spend hours creating detailed slideshows which break down this new professional learning into meaningful steps so that administrators in each building can have a guide for teaching these new concepts and skills to our educators. Although they're really passionate about these new district professional learning, Kathleen, Kristen, and Connie spend the majority of their time working on our district curriculum. This is even more significant at the moment as some of this work was delayed during the past 2 years because of COVID. Aligning curriculum to Michigan standards, developing professional learning surrounding implementation of new curriculum, and researching and disseminating resources to support our curriculums are key pieces of their jobs. They also collaborate with our TLT directors to look at current district assessments and redevelop these as needed when there's curricular changes. Kathleen shared with me that when the teacher leaders work with our educators on curriculum, it not only includes what we teach, but for best practices for how we teach it. They work diligently so that our teachers are able to provide all our Huron Valley students across the district with what we collaboratively believe are the best learning opportunities and offer them consistently across the district. Our teacher leaders are charged with developing and are supporting every curriculum in every course, JK through 12th grade. Their current focus areas vary as new curriculum is introduced, new resources are rolled out, and new assessments are created. This work is very meaningful to our teacher leaders as they collaborate with different cohorts across the district and view the big picture of teaching and learning through a district lens. Martin Lindberg, TLT director, sums up our teacher leaders by saying, and I'll quote, HVS is so fortunate to have the quality of teacher leaders that we do. They are extremely passionate and bring positive energy to their work. What is most impressive about them is their ability to support our teachers at all levels and facilitate work in diverse curricular areas. Our teacher leaders are crucial to the success of our students. So I hope this evening gave you some new insights into the roles and responsibilities of our teacher leaders, because many people don't exactly know what they do across the district. Stay tuned for my next association comment, where I'll share additional information about our other 4 teacher leaders in their unique positions in our district. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving to item G, board correspondence. Madam Secretary, do we have any correspondence?
We do, Mr. Carlson. We have correspondence from Allie Parks from Highland, Michigan. It's addressed to the Huron Valley Schools Board, to whom it may concern. My name is Allie Parks, and I go to Muir Middle School. I want to address why Huron Valley schools should no longer have dress codes. Although dress codes do make a professional appearance, girls in school are frequently dress coded for too short shorts or skirts, too thin tank top straps, leggings, and other clothes that are deemed a distraction to boys. If girls are not a certain body type, if they have more curves or are more developed, they are dress coded more frequently than other girls who may not have the same features but wear the exact same items. It's not body positive. It makes people feel like they can't express themselves wearing what they want. A fourth grade teacher, Marcy Kutzer, said these rules send a clear message to girls. A boy's education can be compromised by your gender. Please do what you can to neutralize it. These problems even follow women into their workplaces. A leaked training presentation from Ernst & Young coached young women to look healthy and fit with a good haircut, manicured nails, and well-cut attire that complements your body type, but not to wear too short skirts because sexuality scrambles the mind. Dress codes follow girls from childhood into adulthood. They teach them that a boy's learning is more important than their own and that certain clothing interferes with their professionalism. These are just some reasons why I think we should not have a dress code. Thank you for your time, Allie Parks.
Okay, and that was from a student.
Correct.
All right, thank you. All right, treasurer's report. Mr. Weissman is not here, so we'll move right along. Reports from the board committee. Given that we have a closed session this evening, if there's no objections, I would request that the chair's reports be submitted to the secretary to be received and filed if there are no objections. Seeing none, we will move those committee reports. Boy, I wish I would have thought about that a year ago. All right, public comments. Oh, did I say that out loud? Do we have any public comments? All right, no public comments. We'll now move to the consent agenda. For the consent agenda, can I get a motion to approve consent agenda items A1 through A4?
I'll make a motion to approve consent agenda items A1 through A4.
I'll support that.
All right. Motion made to approve the consent agenda by Ms. Forrest and supported by Ms. Cotter. We will move for a roll call vote.
Okay. Ms. Forrest,
Yes.
Ms. Cotter,
Yes.
Ms. Dodd,
Yes.
I am a yes. Ms. Grzymkowski,
Yes.
and Mr. Carlson.
Yes.
All in favor.
Motion carries. Consent agenda is approved as presented. We'll now move to section 5, unfinished business. And we have section 5, sub item A, approval of the O100 bylaw, individual policy exhibit B.
Thank you, Mr. President. This particular policy was presented at the last board meeting. This evening, we are asking for approval of the 0100 bylaw that was not included when the board adopted the entire bylaw series. I did have one request for a revision to the definition of the word treasurer, which I shared at the last board meeting. I've had no other correspondence from board members. I am requesting approval of board policy 0100 bylaw as presented.
Okay. Before we take any questions or comments, I need a motion to move this forward. Ms. Grzymkowski motions for the approval and supported by Ms. Dodd. Any questions or comments on this item? Seeing none, we'll move for a roll call vote.
Ms. Grzymkowski,
Yes.
Ms. Dodd,
Yes.
Ms. Cotter,
Yes.
Ms. Forrest,
Yes.
I am a yes. Mr. Carlson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion passes. We'll now move to approval of board policy 4000 series exhibit C. Dr. Salah.
Thank you, Mr. President. So last board meeting, we had the 4000 series presented as a entire series. I did have one question that came in a little bit late for us to make any changes, and I would like to request attorney review of that particular policy. It's policy 4162, controlled substance and alcohol policy for commercial motor vehicle CMV drivers and other employees who perform safety sensitive functions. Question came in, just need a little more clarification from the attorneys before I am comfortable with that specific policy.
Okay.
But I would like to request that the board adopt the other policies within the 4000 series and simply exclude 4162.
4162. So if I can get a motion to approve board policy 4000 series with the exception of 4162, can I get that motion? Ms. Grisomkowski and Ms. Dodd supports that. So the motion on the table is the approval of the Board Policy 4000 series with the exception of Policy 4162. Are there any questions and comments related to the rest of the 4000 Board Policy? No, that's been discussed extensively, so we will now move forward for a roll call vote.
Ms. Grisomkowski.
Yes.
Ms. Dodd.
Yep.
Ms. Cotter.
Yes.
Ms. Forrest.
Yes.
I'm a yes. Mr. Carlson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, thank you. All right, we'll now move forward with approval of Board Policy 7000 Series, Exhibit D.
So
Dr. Salam.
similar to the 0100 and the 4000 series, at our last board meeting, we discussed the approval of the 7000 series. I have had no questions from the board since our last board meeting. These policies have been reviewed extensively by the TLT, Finance and Operations, as well as the Marketing and Communications Committee, as they had relevant policy to all three of the subcommittees. This evening, I'm asking for the board to adopt the 7000 series as presented.
Okay, can I get a motion? Ms. Grisomkowski, Ms. Forrest supports that. Any questions or comments related to the 7000 series? Ms. Dodd.
I just want to mention to the folks, part of the reason we don't have a ton of comment at the board table right now is because we reviewed these policy by policy in committee meetings over many committee meetings. And also we had a first read at the last meeting. This is our final read. So a lot of the questions have been answered. So if you're newish to the meetings and you're wondering, why don't these people have questions? Oh, we have. There's been a lot of questions and a lot of mulling over and looking at small words, but also looking at big phrases. So I just wanted to put that out there as we're kind of ending this process of going through the board policies, that has been the process we've taken, just for clarification for the folks out there watching this.
Thank you for that helpful and meaningful comment. I think that's helpful. Anybody following along? Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move for a roll call vote.
All right, Ms. Grisomkowski.
Yes.
Ms. Forrest.
Yes.
Ms. Dodd.
Yes.
I am a yes. Ms. Cotter.
Yes.
And Mr. Carlson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion passes. Board Policy 7000 series. Are there any other outstanding policies other than the one-offs?
This should be it.
Okay. All right.
Woohoo.
So let's get these one-offs done next one, and then we'll drop the balloons. Okay. So. Yeah, one balloon. All right. New business. Item 6A, athletic school board or scoreboards and digital displays. Dr. Slaw.
I will turn this one over to Mr. Van Gilpin.
Yes, thank you, board. So as part of our bond program, we are asking that the bond program replace all of the scoreboards for our athletic facilities. And so this will replace 10 of our scoreboards, not including the pool area, which will be done in the spring of 2023. But this is for both of our auxiliary and main field house, baseball and softball fields, as well as our stadium. This is a replacement. We are not enhancing due to the cost of what it would be to enhance some of these spaces. We're merely replacing the scoreboards that we have available. We did discuss this at Finance and Operations as well as TLT. TLT did bring up the fact that it's tough to see some of the scoreboards in the field house. So could we consider moving them away from baskets? And that was also brought up by student leadership. So I appreciated those comments, and we'll be working with the athletic directors on making sure that those are easily visible when attending events. So this is a first read. We are not asking for approval this evening, merely bringing this to the board for new business and consideration for approval at the December 5th meeting.
Okay. Any other questions or comments related to athletic scoreboards and digital displays? I just have one. Do the scoreboards offer us an opportunity to brand and sell space to community businesses and so forth?
So I can tell you that the advertising or the space that we continue to have on our scoreboards, that will not be replaced because it still is in pretty good shape for both of the outside scoreboards. The ones that are inside, we do not have advertising space.
Okay.
But we do have the ability to put our HVS logo, I believe,
Okay.
on those units. We're just, again, based on price, we did this through the co-op, and there's a wide range from the couple $1,000s that we're asking for all the way up to about $500,000 for a unit. And so as a result of our budget, we're trying to stay within budget on this as we do all of our projects. And so we're just asking for replacement, not enhancement at this time.
All right, thank you. Okay, we'll now move to Employee Assistance Program.
That is Jeanette, Ms. Windner.
Okay, thank you. So over the last course of several months, I've been researching employee assistance programs to be added to our district paid benefits. With mental health and anxiety being in the forefront, these employee assistance programs are designed to do just that, provide a confidential source for employees for mental health support, resources, work-life issues, personal coaching, and so forth. So working in consultation with our benefits broker, Gallagher, we were able to hold meetings with 3 vendors. Each of their plans were evaluated by myself and our HR supervisor, Stacy Sattler. We looked at all the plans and narrowed it down to one recommended vendor that we felt would best suit HVS to manage personal and professional stress. So with that, we brought this topic up at the executive committee meetings on October 10th and 24th. Additional materials and findings were included in the October 28th and November 11th board notes related to the plan through the recommended vendor, CuraLink. If this is approved, this benefit would be offered to all of HVS staff and their family members living in their household at no cost to them. And the direction we're heading is to be looking for approval at the December 5th board meeting. And with that, any questions, I'm happy to take those.
Ms. Todd.
I'm a huge believer in EAPs, and so I am absolutely thrilled that this is something that you've championed and brought on. We talk about the mental health of the students, but we also have to, as employers, think about the mental health of our staff. And I have, as a supervisor, utilized these services in different places, and I have seen a world of difference for employees who actually use this. And so I think an investment in this is just a wonderful investment in the health and health of our staff, and it really shows that we care about them and we want them to be successful folks. So thank you for the work on this. I think it's really important.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. Oh, Ms. Grzymkowski.
Just one quick question. How are you planning to roll this out, should it get approved, to employees? Because most of everything is about
how you
knowing something's available.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you think that'll work?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. We plan to, once we, if there's approval, there's an implementation process. It takes about a month. So we'd probably be looking at mid-January, not quite at the first. They need a little bit of time. And the recommended vendor has all kinds of materials and sample emails to market that to employees so they can take advantage of it. It's going to be a constant, it's going to be new. So to get it in front of people, to share the benefits, how it can help, that it's confidential, all the different, features that it provides, that will be marketed to everybody. Myself and Stacy Sattler, the HR supervisor who oversees benefits. That's going to be something that we're going to present, on many occasions so that it's consistently being seen by people so that they can utilize it. Like I said, their family members can utilize it. And, it is a great benefit and it's very beneficial.
Thank you. Ms. Pastana.
Jeanette, can you tell me, I didn't see it in my notes anywhere, the cost of the program?
Yep, I have that. It's pretty pretty not very significant, I should say. It's $1.62 per employee. So I think it comes out to be about 26,000.
Wow.
And we're locked into that rate for 3 years.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Ms. Forrest.
So this is for full or part-time employees, is that correct? Everybody?
All HVS staff, even if they are not enrolled in our medical plans,
Mhm.
it's offered to everybody and their family members.
Thank you.
Board members.
I'll throw that one in.
Okay. We'll now one more. Stop.
One of the things that I think is important going off of Amy's question in your response is training people who supervise staff how to use this. Because I think they think it's just for people to reach out and ask for the help, but quite frequently in employee improvement plans and that sort of stuff, this can be a really helpful part of those plans. So helping employers and supervisors know how to use this is super important.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Okay. We'll now move to approval of the HVSSP contract.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. So this HVSSP is our transportation department. We have been approached by HVSSP to consider a wage reopener. Transportation is a very competitive market, as we all know, as evidenced by last school year where we had to run partial routes, and we felt the pain as well as our community for a couple of months there until we were able to right that ship. So we did engage in two discussions. The HVSSP and the district reached a tentative agreement that was voted on November 3rd and ratified by the HVSSP. We are asking that the school board take action this evening to support that bargaining agreement. It is an extension through June 30th, 2024, I should add as well.
So this is a new business item. It is bolded. It is our intention to vote on this contract this evening. Can I get a motion to approve this contract? Ms. Forrest.
I'll make a motion to approve the HVSSP contract.
And supported by Ms. Pastana. Are there any questions or comments related to this? Okay, I would like to comment and just say nice work. I mean, this is important to make sure that our staff, and in this case, our support staff that are bringing our children or students to and from home every day, that we have competitive wages to fill these positions. So thank you for being on the front end of this. And let's go ahead and move for a roll call vote.
Ms. Forrest?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Ms. Dodd?
Yes.
Ms. Cotter?
Yes.
Ms. Grzymkowski?
Yes.
And Mr. Carlson?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, great. We are now section 6D, approval of the International Academy Letter of Understanding Resolution, Exhibit H.
So this particular item, I think, deserves a little bit of explanation. So when we negotiate with different bargaining groups, typically that is the Huron Valley Schools Administration and the leadership of said bargaining group, whoever is on that bargaining committee. So for example, the Huron Valley Education Association, we are our teachers, and when the district negotiates with our teachers, they have representation, the district has representation, and we negotiate in good faith on behalf of the school board based upon the parameters that are established by the district. The International Academy is somewhat different, and I need people to hear this and understand it, because it's difficult for me as superintendent to be able to discuss this when in the midst of negotiation. And there were a lot of questions circling around the International Academy. Well, why doesn't the district just settle a contract? Why isn't the district do X, Y, or Z? The International Academy for Huron Valley Schools is one of 13 local school districts that are involved in the International Academy. So when we negotiate a letter of understanding, frankly, it's kind of like herding cats. We've got a lot of people who are involved in that process, and you have to ensure that everybody has a voice in that process. It wasn't a Huron Valley Schools Board of Education setting the parameters and making a decision to get that done, and it wasn't a superintendent or Huron Valley Schools administrative team singly and exclusively making that decision. It was 13 locally governed school districts that all have implications and budgets that they have to pay attention to make these decisions. So with that being said, we did reach a tentative agreement with the International Academy that involves all three campuses, which includes West, East, and the Bloomfield Hills campus, Okima. It does represent all 13 school districts that are involved. In board notes on Friday, you received a letter from the attorney that negotiated that contract, and it provided you with a high-level overview of the key changes that were involved in that letter of understanding. So I have a resolution here that was included in your board packet this evening, and I'm asking with this one that the board read the resolution and support that resolution approving the letter of understanding. And I think it's important to note that all 13 school districts will have to go through this process with the majority voting in the affirmative for the letter of understanding to be ratified.
Okay. The resolution reads as follows. Whereas the district is a participating district in the International Academy and is a party to the IA Letter of Understanding that sets forth the terms and conditions by which the IA is governed and operates. And whereas the participating districts and the fiscal agent districts have circulated a proposed amended letter of understanding, which is attached to the resolution as Exhibit A for consideration and approval by the school boards of the participating districts. And whereas after consideration of the proposed amended letter of understanding, the board has determined it is in the district's best interest to approve the same and to authorize the district superintendent to execute the same on the district's behalf. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the board hereby approves the proposed amended letter of understanding and authorize the district superintendent to execute the same on the district's behalf. All other resolutions and parts of resolutions insofar as they conflict with the provisions of this resolution are hereby rescinded. So we'll now go ahead. If I can get a motion, I'll make the motion. And do I have support? Ms. Dodd supports. Are there any questions regarding the resolution that was read? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move for a vote.
All right, Mr. Carlson.
Yes.
Ms. Dodd.
Yes.
I'm a yes. Ms. Forrest.
Yes.
Ms. Cotter.
Yes.
And Ms. Grzymkowski.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, thank you. All right, so we have a bonus item here, item E, the appointment. Again, this is in regards to being proactive. We want to be able to come to the next board meeting and take our seats as opposed to having Ms. Cotter out in the crowd and Ms. Grzymkowski out in the crowd. So that's the purpose of this this evening. So the motion would go something like, upon the certification of the Board of Canvassers of the special election of Lindsay Cotter, Ms. Cotter will then create a vacancy of the remainder time in her current elected 2-year position seat. The vacancy that will be created requires this board to move forward to fill this 40-day vacancy. The Huron Valley School Board of Education will move to appoint Ms. Grzymkowski for the balance of this term. I will work on those notes with the respective secretaries at the end of the table. Any questions or comments to that? Ms. Grzymkowski, on this one, I would ask you to recuse yourself. And so then we will go forward. Can I get a motion to approve as presented?
Sure. I make a motion to approve as presented the appointment of Amy.
Okay. Supported by Ms. Forrest, moved by Ms. Dodd. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move for a roll call vote.
Okay, Ms. Dodd.
Yes.
Ms. Forrest.
Yes.
I am a yes. Ms. Cotter.
Yes.
And Mr. Carlson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. There we go. I'm taking care of our business for next time. All right. Again, no public comments. Good and welfare. Any good and welfare? Ms. Dodd, Ms. Grisomkowski.
I would just like to thank the Huron Valley voters for electing me to 6 years. When we started this journey more than 10 months ago, I really didn't know what I was really walking into. It has been an honor and a joy to serve, and I'm really looking forward to the next 6 years. One of the great opportunities as a board member is to be not only a participant, but also a spectator in the things that are going on in our district. I attended some of the Veterans Day events and was immensely proud of the district and the way in which we value our veterans and we demonstrate our appreciation for their service. I was also able to attend White Christmas at Milford High School, and like Dr. Salah, I don't know where they receive their professionalism, except for it has to be Megan Weeks and Brittany Miller, because these students, it wasn't just the students that were on the stage that were tap dancing and singing and memorizing lines, but it was the stage crew that created a monstrous light up piano, which was incredible. But the lighting crew, the sound crew, the costumes, every bit of that production was professional. So kudos. So again, I want to thank you for electing me. I want to thank you for allowing me to work for a short period of time with Sean Carlson and Denise Forrest. It has been my honor to work with them. They are both professionals in every sense of the word. They are kind human beings, and I appreciate the way they've taken me under their wings and have taught me in this role. And I hope that I can still call on you in the future, because I'm sure there will be many opportunities for me to get your
Not more
wisdom.
than twice a month.
Right. I may call you 3 times. Yeah, call early in the morning. But thank you very much, and happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Ms. Cotter.
Thank you. Mr. Carlson, I want to thank you for your opening comments this evening regarding the election. I too, as Amy has just done, I really want to thank the community and trusting me to serve for 2 more years. I look forward to it very much. And again, thank you. I appreciate everyone, all the comments that I received, the emails, the texts. A number of people have walked up and congratulated me. So Huron Valley is certainly a part of my home. I know that. Thank you.
Thank you. I just have to tell a little story here. Sorry. One of the first persons when I was elected in 2009 that sent me a card in the mail and said, congratulations, was Miss Cotter. She wasn't on the board at that time. I didn't know her very well, but she took the time to write something out and send it. Did run into her at the Milford grocery store, I think a few weeks later, and we talked a little bit more, but I appreciate that, and I appreciate the friendship that we've had on the board all these years. Any other good and welfare? Ms. Dodd.
Okay, because I always like to remind everybody this is the time of the year to go see the students perform. If you're not going to a performance, White Christmas was a great kickoff, but there is tons from middle school band and high school choir, and I know the Lakeland High School Theater Group has Little Women coming up the first weekend in December. But this is the time. And if there's nothing to fill the heart with warmth when it's cold outside like this, it's all these wonderful full performances by our students, led by dedicated and kind educators. So make a point to at least see one, and it'll hopefully make your November and December a little warmer.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? All right, seeing none, we'll now move, get a motion to move to closed session. Ms. Dodd.
I'll motion to move us to closed session.
And I don't see any support, so we'll just, no. Miss Forrest, okay. We'll go ahead and move for a roll call vote.
Miss Dodd,
Yes.
Miss Forrest,
Yes.
I'm a yes. Miss Cotter,
I guess so.
Miss Grzymkowski,
Yes.
and Mr. Carlson.
Yes, all right, we are
Going to
moved
closed
to closed session.